Hey, I'm Colin with Western Interlock, and today we're going to show you how to install permeable paving stones. So we're here at ideabox in Salem, Oregon, and they contacted us because they had a little bit of an issue in which they had to have more of a permeable surface. So we figured we use that as an opportunity to help them and create more permeable surface and use it as a how-to. So step one in this process is design. The easiest way to do that for me is to draw everything up on a piece of graph paper. That way you can use everything as a modular square foot, and you can pre-order your materials like gravel and bedding material, and including your paving stones. Once you have a good design drawn out, you can move on to step two, which is layout. I always make sure I use white marking paint when doing a layout. At some point before the excavation process, you're going to want to make sure you have a locate, and they will draw up your property with multiple different colors, and white is the only safe color to use. Once you're pretty content with the size of your project that you've drawn out with your marking paint, you can add 6 inches outside the perimeter for an extra 6 inches of compacted gravel base for your edge restraint. After that, you can go into step 3, which is get it square. We always like to talk about getting things square before we even excavate. That way we don't accidentally over or under excavate. The easiest way to get it square is establish a straight line with the majority of your project. Once you've established straight, you can move on to establishing square, which by using the Pythagorean theorem or 3-4-5 triangle, you can adjust your stakes and string lines to have a nice square corner to work from. With everything square, you can move on to step 4, which is set the grade. All you have to do in this process is establish a finished grade with a string line level, get it close to whatever permeable surface that you're meeting up with, and adjust it to level. Once you've adjusted one line to level, the line going away from your project, if you have slope, get that level with it as well, and then adjust it for slope according to the 1/8 inch of drop per linear foot. With permeable paving stones, they're unique because you don't have to have grade. You can make a perfectly level surface, and because the water drains through them, it doesn't matter if it has grade or not. With your grade in place, you go on to step 5, which is excavate. Again, I always stress that you make sure you have a locate done, that way you don't hit any utilities. It can be costly and slow down your project dramatically. Excavation for permeable paving stones is a little bit more in depth than normal pavers. You have to add at least 30% more gravel base per pedestrian traffic or vehicular traffic area. So for our area, we're doing 9 inches of crushed 3/4 open rock, 1 inch of 1/4-10 as our bedding layer. Then our paving stones are 80 millimeters, so we're going to add that all together to make about 14 inches of excavation. With that number in place, we can excavate below our string lines, which we have set to grade or level if you can do that. And basically the easiest way to do that is with a machine if you know how to use it. If not, if you have a small area like we do, you can definitely do it by hand to be efficient. With everything excavated below your string lines, 14 inches all the way around, you can move on to step 6, which is bring in your gravel base. Again, you're going to use open graded gravel base. It has to be crushed as well so that it can compact. We're using 3/4 clean, which is just crushed 3/4 rock that has no fines in it, therefore water can drain through there. Before you put your gravel in there, you want to make sure you lay down a layer of geofilter fabric. Typically with paving stones, you're going to lay geotextile, which is non-permeable, but because this is a permeable surface, you're going to use geofilter, which is a structural filter fabric that still does the same things that geotextile does, mainly filtering water and mixing in dirt into your gravel. With your filter fabric in place, you can start bringing in your gravel. We're still going to compact this in 2-inch lifts to make sure we have lots of compaction. So because we need 9 inches of gravel, we're going to be doing it in about 4.5 lifts. After bringing up your gravel in 2-inch lifts to get that full 9 inches of compacted gravel, if you feel like you're pretty close and flat, I always take a nice board or 2x4 and rake that gravel around to make sure it's perfectly flat. Then after that final compact, we can move on to step 7, which is screed your bedding layer. For our bedding layer, we're using 1/4-10, which is a crushed open fine rock, which works very well for permeability and structure. With 1-inch screed rails, we're just gonna go ahead and float that 1/4-10 around there. We actually notched a 2x4 today and used it as a nice guide to make sure we match up perfectly with that asphalt. Just make sure if you cut a notch in your 2x4 that you add the extra 1/4 inch for compaction of your paving stones, if they can be compacted. With the bedding layer in place, we can move on to step 8, which is lay the stones. We're using 80mm Holland stones. Again, they are permeable, they have much larger spacer bars, therefore the joints are wide to be able to sweep in 1/4-10 and have permeability. We're laying the herringbone pattern with 1 soldier course border on a couple sides. And the nice thing about this stone is it has the halves already integrated with it, therefore we don't have to worry about making half cuts for the herringbone pattern. We've got our whole field laid. Luckily, we didn't have to do any cuts. Now we can move on to step 9, which is edge restraint. We're gonna be using Permeable edging today. That's why we integrated this piece of GeoGrid underneath our paving stones for extra tensile strength. All we have to do is come down here, scrape away our 1/4-10. We mix in a bucket here of this Perma edge, and we're just gonna slap it on, put it right on top of that GeoGrid for lots of strength. So we've got all of our edge restraint in place. Now we can go ahead and move on to step 10, the final step, which is sweeping in our joints, compacting our stones, and covering up our edges and finishing our project. And that's our 10 steps to install permeable paving stones. You can walk on it, drive on it, and have a good place for water to drain.